Welcome to another show, the James Spearman Show. Today we've got another awesome guest, MK Bruce, and um, super excited to have you on the show. And passionate aviator and deals in business as well. Played for the NFL, so private pilot, mortgage professional, and former NFL player. Journey spans locker rooms, leadership, and now the left seat of a Beechcraft Bonanza.
Oh yeah.
Thanks for being on the show with me.
No, I appreciate the opportunity. It sounds like it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, man. So I normally start the show with the same question. What is it? There's always like one spark that most people in aviation have, where it just like the twinkle in your eye, and all of a sudden you're hooked, right? You start watching all the YouTube videos on aviation. You start hanging around all pilot friends. You start joining all the forums. For me, it was when I was a young kid. My dad took me to an air show when I was in middle school, and the lady let me sit in this left seat of her Cessna 172, and I was just like, I was hooked there. What about for you?
You know what's so crazy is you hear people's stories of, they grew up in Wisconsin, they went to Oshkosh, or they had these air shows that they went to and everything like that. And for me, I didn't think it was a possibility at all. I was deathly afraid of heights. And I thought, you had to go into the military, or you had to go to this crazy, you got 8 years of pilot training in school to be a pilot. And then I always wanted to like get into a plane and understand that I love mechanics, and I love, being in control of a machine. So I've had boats, cars, everything. But during COVID, I was like, man, I want to fly so bad. And I was even getting to a point where I was even thinking about going back into the military or something, just as a side gig, just so I can fly. And my wife was like, just Google and see what it takes. And I found out you could just go and take lessons, and that was it. I never looked back. And I'm talking about 200 plus hours a year. I'm getting up in the sky and going crazy. So the coolest thing I would say, James, is my son and I mean, he's like my best friend, right? This is my guy, but we have zero in common as far as when it comes to like a lot of things. Where, I was in the NFL, I'm taking him with me into the locker room, and he was like, Dad, I don't even want to play football, So it's like the thing that I do, he wasn't really that into. And then I got into aviation. I was like, buddy, you want to try this? Now he's flying planes, and it's the coolest thing in the world. I'm telling you. So
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, really, my dad's already passed. He passed in 22, but I mean, aviation kind of brought me and my dad extremely close together. I would say the same thing. I did the military route. He was
okay.
an art, and so we had like it was a lot different. I played football. He did art. It's just
Yeah.
no. I think that's awesome, and it's really special.
Yeah, to be able to bridge the gap is crazy. And one of the funnest stories for me was like, as he was starting to get into it, he was taking lessons. And I went and bought this 210 out of Iowa. So me and my cousin went to pick it up, and we're flying home. And I remember flying over the mountains, coming into our S36 is the airstrip that we're at, where we're hangared at. And as soon as I changed frequencies, I changed it to S36. It's 123. And literally the first thing that comes on is my son's voice as I'm coming over the mountain, descending in, trying to get to the pattern. And he's like, 6360 whiskey, turning final. And I literally just start bawling. I was like, that's my baby flying a plane. It was the coolest thing ever.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How how old were you when you got into aviation?
Man, I was in my late 30s. So yeah, I was late to the game, but I still want to fly professionally. I would totally do it if I could.
Yeah. No, that's a good point that I normally bring up. Many of my customers, I know I own a Garmin avionics shop here in East
Okay.
Tennessee. And so most of my customers are business owners, people that own aircraft. And I would say, it's very, very rare that we find one of my customers was in aviation from a young age. Most of
Yeah.
them were business owners, became successful, and then decided to purchase an aircraft. And so I like to bring that point up. If you're listening right now and you're thinking, hey, it's probably too late. This is
Oh,
really
yeah.
dumb for me to jump in and do this. It's like, no, you can do it. You can
You can
definitely
do
do
it.
it.
And it's crazy too to see like people in their, late 40s, 50s just coming in. Like I'm seeing people literally taking their first solo flight, and they have gray hair. There's not even one colored hair on their body. It's just like that's so cool. They're just like living their dream. But I mean, there's so many people that just literally tell me like, I wish I would have done it. I wish I would have done it. It's like, don't wish, just do it, brother. Just get in there. So
Yeah. So I assume you were probably juggling a lot, right? Like you're a dad, you're a business owner, and everything else you got going on. How were you able to start working on getting your pilot's license?
This was like it was the craziest time in the world to do it though, because during COVID, the interest rates got down to 2.75. And in my business, I do all residential mortgage. So, purchases, refinance, investments. So I had the most business I've ever had in my life at the time. And I was working all day long. And in between then, I would, you had to do your chair flying or you had to study for your written and all this stuff. And I just literally muscled it out. In less than a year, I got my private during all of this time. And at that time, I think I had three businesses. I had the mortgage company, my wife and I owned a gym, and then we had a mobile detailing company, and all of them very successful businesses that I was running and managing and trying to get my private pilot. But it was like one of those things that I was so determined to do it and change the narrative and just, when I told people I was going to fly planes, like, okay, all right, buddy. And I was like, nah, I'm finishing this. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's doable, right? Like it was crazy that you're able to do that with three businesses.
yeah.
Three.
As a business owner, man, there's no sleep.
Got two, and one of them's this maintenance and upgrades business, and then the other one is a flight training business, and it's 24/7. It never
Yeah.
stops.
Yeah. Always put the fire marshal hat on.
Yeah, that's right. It's funny. I won't get into that. Your thoughts on business, but yeah, that's kind of bad. In the beginning, you get addicted to that, right? Like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm Superman. Put the cape on and solve every problem, and then you're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna put myself in the hospital.
Oh my gosh. But you know what too is as a business owner, entrepreneurs out there, the best thing I learned is if you give somebody a fish, they'll eat for a day. If you teach somebody a fish, they'll eat for a lifetime. And it's the biggest thing in the world. So now, as a business owner, someone comes to me with a problem, and I love this. They ask me my opinion. I said, well, what would you do? And they come back to me like, I would do this, this, and this. Great. And just empower them to do that. And then pretty soon they're stop asking you for questions. They're just doing it, and they're probably doing it just as good, if not better than what you're doing. Right. So the delegation piece is great if you could teach somebody how to do it.
Dude, that took me a while to learn. And it's funny because I'm an Air Force pilot, right? I fly the KC-135 for the Air Force National Guard. And, you've got different roles and responsibilities in the
Yep.
plane. And they go through officer training school. They teach you management and delegation and all leadership, all of these things. But when I started my own business, for some reason, I just wanted to like solve every problem. And then I taught probably like for 4 straight years, taught my team that, I solve all problems.
And you set yourself up like that. Yep.
It was really bad. So then I had to finally start working through. Started working with a coach, and he said, hey man, what you need to do is like when they come to you with something, you need to have them like coach them into when you bring me a problem, you should have three solutions with you,
Great.
and then go through those solutions with me, and then pick one that you think is the best, and we're gonna roll with that.
I love it. And James, what the coolest thing that you were talking about too is about coaching, and I'm a firm believer in this. The most powerful people in the world have coaches. Because someone's so successful, they're not doing it on their own; they're being coached, right?
Yeah.
So I'm so big on coaching.
Well, taking it back to aviation, right? Like it's just kind of natural because you need a flight instructor, but you'll have that flight instructor, that one that helped you through all of your ratings, that you'll always go back to for a mentor. And then it makes a lot of sense for you, right? Like you're a professional athlete or a collegiate athlete, you had to have a coach, right? Like, do you
For
think
sure.
you could have just figured it out, and made it to the NFL?
Not a chance. Not a chance. Yeah, and that was the thing too. Is like team sports were always big for me too. But like being coached and understanding and being coachable. There's a thing. You're gonna have a great day. You're gonna have a crap day when you're flying. Like there's I always have these great landings, and one day you just absolutely just crater something. You're like, man, I suck at flying. My son called me the day. He's in at Thrust Academy in Dallas, Texas. Flies out of CADS, KADS, and he's working on his commercial right now. So he's got his private, his instrument is, and he's like on commercial, we're changing a few of the things that they were doing when they're coming on their approach to landing. And he said, Dad, I absolutely cratered a landing. And he was shook for like a week. And those next few flights, that's all he was thinking about was just messing up on that landing. I was like, brother, you gotta flush it.
Let it go.
You
Let it
gotta flush it.
But what's the mentality? That's in football. They talk about that a lot too, right? The next play. You can't think about the last play.
Well, they talk about, so you talking about football, you talk about basketball, whatever sport it is, let's just say there's 90 minutes in a game and all you're worried about is the 1 minute, right? And you have 89 other minutes to go ahead and turn that around or do something special. Or all you thought about with this one play, but you scored 3 touchdowns. It's like, come on, man. Like, this game's designed to beat you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so when I was going through Air Force pilot training, so each day while you're through Air Force pilot training, your dream's on the line. All your friends are getting sent home, because they're not good enough. And normally what happens is you have a bad ride, and it's just a thing. Like, we still say it now. It's like, man, I had a bad ride. And that's a normal thing for a pilot. So if you're out there and you get discouraged through pilot training or like getting your private pilot's license, you let it go. It will take you longer. Don't get discouraged. Keep going. But yeah, the ones that did make it through, they'd have one bad ride and they'd hang on to it, and then it strung to 2, and then 3, and then you're done.
Well, one big thing that I will strongly encourage anybody out there that's flying is chair flying is so real. I saw this video. I watched that Blue Angel video about how they're all in the room just so precisely closing their eyes, visualizing and chair flying. Chair flying is so important. Just the visualization, just the muscle memory, just different things like that. Checklist. I've always been a free spirit, and then you learn how to use these checklists, and it's like I don't know. I don't know if you've ever had an emergency situation. I had it. Lost my alternator, lost all power, had to do manual gear down and do a no flap landing at with no navigation, find an airport. And it goes back to your training. And it was like, I didn't freak out. Nothing was bad. I landed, greased the landing. Now my hands were shaking after, but during, it was just like, you follow your checklist, you follow all your training, and it's just like 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. So that's a huge part of Air Force pilot training is chair flying. And they always gave us this analogy. Was they told us about this basketball team back in the day, and they had so many people practice shooting free throws, and then the other group of people, they only mentally and
Visualize. Yeah.
visualized shooting free throws, and they tested them before and after, and there's like consistent better results from the people that visualized it versus just practicing it. And so, yeah, in the beginning for me, obviously it's a little bit different now, but yeah, I would chair fly from the moment that I left all the way to like chocks to chocks. How I was going to start the engine, everything, the checklist. I'd have it on my hand. I'd sit there and I'd actually move the controls. And I knew what frequencies I was going to change to. I knew what approach I was going to ask for. I'd run through the radio calls.
That's awesome.
All along. So you're 100% spot on. Chair flying is key, and most of the pilots out there, they just purchased an aircraft and they're business owners. They're busy. Um, they're not experienced enough to where you can just go out there and just let it come at you. You really need to sit down and think about. I would say that, and I had this talk with my customers. Sit down and think about your entire flight and work through it. Maybe not, you don't have to close your eyes and sit in the seat and pretend like you're flying, but at least have an idea of what's going to come. Okay, after my first takeoff, I'm going to be probably turning left, right? Or I'm going to the north, so I'm going to turn right. And what can I expect the frequency changes are going to be? What approach? Yeah. Go ahead and study the approach plates. Which one you're going to ask for? You already know immediately. You don't have to sit there and in the plane and figure it out on the way there.
Well, just to follow up on that too, is like it's so important to be able to not only just chair fly and go through this, but just the practice of going up with a CFI still, or doing your flight reviews, or just being in a plane. But a lot of people, someone asked me the other day, I was like, why they call your plane the doctor killer? And it's like, you're right. It was just like people that had money would just buy the plane, and they were just, go out there without the training, and that's what it was, right? And people were getting themselves in bad situations. So it only takes 1 or 2 bad situations to not do it again, right?
Yeah, just because you're really, really good at one thing, like, you're probably pretty successful if you can purchase an aircraft yourself. Because you're really good at that thing doesn't mean that you're going to be awesome in the cockpit, and you can just tell, that you should take it like you've never done it before, because it's true. So,
yeah.
So How many hours do you have at this point?
Almost 700. Might be like 660, something like that. Yeah.
How many ratings do you have?
So I have my private and my seaplane right now.
Oh,
And my
awesome.
almost my tail wheel.
Okay.
And high performance and complex, and I don't know if that counts.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, I've actually got a little Icon A5. It's not in the hangar.
Oh.
Sitting right behind me.
Would I fit in one of those? Are they pretty tight?
Yeah, you 250 is the limit. But
Oh,
that
I'm 270.
it's an awesome airplane, man. I love that thing.
Oh, fun. Those look so cool.
Yeah, we do seaplane training out here in East Tennessee, so you can get your seaplane rating and stuff. But it's
Yeah,
definitely pretty dope. What time did you do yours?
I did it in a Cessna up here. Um, but I really want to try one of those the Piper Cubs they have up here too. They have those up here that you can just get on the little rivers, and we have a lot of mountain flying up here in the Pacific Northwest. So I'd love to try that.
Yeah. Wait, was it a Cessna 182, 172?
182.
82? Yeah,
Yeah.
they actually have a little bit of power.
Very little. But me getting up on plane, stepping up on plane was a little tough.
Yeah, the neat thing about the Icon is it's kind of cheating. I mean, it's I wouldn't really feel comfortable hopping into a plane on floats. The Icon, I mean, you're sitting in a jet ski hole, and the water
Yeah.
line is much at your butt, and so I mean, there's no real like gauging. I mean, and you fly it on the backside of the power curve, and you just set a power setting and an AOA, and just hold it until it touches down on the water. Leave the camera in.
Well, the seaplane was really fascinating. Like the glassy water landings, because on a real calm day, it just looks like a black hole. So I was like, I didn't even think that was a thing, right? You kind of want a little bit of not necessarily rough water, but some waves. Because to see that glassy like black hole was like, okay, let me look over at this shoreline and figure out where I'm at here.
Yeah, it's in a plane because you're a little bit higher off the water. So in that you're probably, I don't know, 4 feet off the water or so. Sitting on a plane on floats, you're lifted.
Yep.
And so it makes it very difficult. And what if you're not familiar, listeners, on what he's talking about with glassy, essentially when the water is completely still, it looks like a mirror, and you can't really gauge where the water level is, and you can just like slam it down. And so what you do is you look out to try to gauge a outside reference, like something on the shore that you're descending down into. Luckily, with the Icon, you get so close to the water, it's almost a non-factor.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm telling you, that plane is cheating.
Just flying in a jet ski seems kind of crazy.
The neat thing is, at plane, you can get it up to about like 30 knots and just kick full rudder, and it'll rip a 180. Like just
No way.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm out on that.
So, how many? Okay, so you also own an aircraft.
I do. So I think we're on our fourth. So I think so I started off with a Piper 140 I bought out of Seattle, and then I sold that, and I bought a 210 out of Iowa. And then I sold that one, and I bought a Saratoga. My Piper Saratoga was the best plane I ever had. There's just complete G3X touches and, the whole nine. So I had a turbo Saratoga. The family loved that. They would just sit in the back and fall asleep. And then I sold that, and I got the V-tail Bonanza.
Detail. Okay. Yeah. So that's the real Dr. Phil.
Yeah. So I had the V-tail. I've flown all over the country. I mean, I've been everywhere on the West Coast. I flew it to Oshkosh twice. It's been all over, but the plane I want to get is an 836.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of my customers, he had his Saratoga up in London, Kentucky, and the tornadoes went through and totaled it. It was his baby. We did full glass. It was just all out plane, and yeah, he was crushed from that. But I coached him into buying an A36. I was like, next plane is A36. I really like that plane for him though. When the Saratoga, he only had like maybe 100 hours or 200 hours, and that one was a fixed gear, non-turbocharged Saratoga, which is an awesome plane. It is high performance and but it's not too much for young pilot. Where sometimes customers will go like straight from like get their private in a 172 and then go straight to a retractable gear Bonanza. Like, whoa, that is like way too much airplane.
Well, that's the biggest thing that I've found out is getting behind the plane is a real thing, and as the most overwhelming feeling you can get is getting behind an airplane. So, like you were saying, is like understanding which way you're turning, understanding the plates, understanding which frequencies. Because if you're coming next to a Bravo shelf, you don't know which frequency you're going, and you're just all over the place. It's overwhelming. So I agree with you on that.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, you keep hitting a lot of topics that we went through. I mean, these are actual. I don't know who gave you your training, but I don't know. Was he from the services?
Yeah, he's a military guy. My boy Dylan. My boy Dylan was the man. I actually got my private in a Cirrus.
Okay. So
Yeah.
these are all topics that they hit. I mean, these are like hammer points on
Hmm.
when you go through Air Force pilot training. But it's always like, what's next? You can't ever be sitting there like and just on your hands and enjoying the moment. Like, okay,
Right.
I'm set up for the approach. What's next? What's coming next? Oh, okay. They're probably going to switch me to tower. How about have that in the standby ready to go? Like,
Yep.
okay, what's
Stand by. Stand by.
they're probably going to put me to ground. So go ahead and put that in the standby. What's next?
Yeah.
What's coming? What's coming next? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead and really review that. The airport diagram, so I can know probably. I know I'm going here. Okay, their clearance to taxi is probably going to be this. And I've already got it ready to go in my head, drawn out.
100%. So one other thing that I was gonna say was since you're an avionics guy, so I had the Bonanza. I had a Garmin 430 and a 1G5, and it was so hard because I came from that Saratoga that had the G3X Touch, a 650, it had all the transponder, had everything was in it, an extra G5, everything. Just investing in a plane. You're going to spend the money, and when you do that, you just have this emotional attachment to it. You spent the money, you put it in, you installed it, you learn how to use it from the avionics shop. There's something so special about it. So I have two G5s in the Bonanza now. I have a 650, and I just updated the Garmin transponder as well. So before I got it, I didn't know I had a Stratus transponder, and I did not know that it doesn't talk to the 650 unless you have the Garmin transponder. So I had to go back and drop that too. But it's a game changer. The S-Tech 50. When I bought the plane, the servo was out in the altitude hold. So, so I just had a heading, but I had no altitude. So you're taking a 4-hour cross country, and you're still just kind of trimming it out and moving it the whole time. So it's been fun.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, for those of you out there that are in the serious community and that's where you started, there's autopilots out there before times. You'd have an autopilot that only held one of the things, right? It would nav or heading, but not altitude, or it holds altitude, but not course. Did you end up upgrading the autopilot on that one yet?
So I saw what the estimate was, and I would put a pin in that.
Yeah.
But they did fix it. They sent it back to S-Tech, and they got it refurbished for a fraction of the cost. So I just did that.
Yeah, that's good. That's definitely good. Yeah, man. Walk me through the experience of getting quotes. How many quotes did you get when when you were looking at upgrading?
There was one avionics shop close to me, and it was basically the one shop. So I wasn't able to go out and get a bunch of quotes, which you kind of got to take their word for it, which kind of sucked. But um, I ended up going through quite a bit. Like I said, I upgraded the whole panel, and then you start getting into these old 1959 planes. It's like, were the avionics done right? Was the power right? Do you need a new bus system? So there was a lot that went into it that I learned, which is another cool thing, is learning how your plane is while they're doing all those refurbishments.
Yeah. What was the overall experience though? And you don't have to name them unless you just
Yeah.
refer to. But what did you have a overall positive experience with?
I did. Yeah, Spencer's Aircraft. It's over in KPLU over here in Puyallup, Pacific Northwest. They did a great job for me, and the thing is if there's people that are very, very technical. They want to know every single thing in the book about everything. That's not me. Like, show me the baby, don't show me how to make it. That's me. It's like, I want to know enough to be dangerous on some of the things. So they're really good on, explaining exactly, hey, this is how this works. Here's where you can, maximize this feature or this avionics. So that was great.
That's great, man. And I'm happy for it too, right? Like, and happy for, all the other dealers out there, especially the ones that are being upfront and transparent. One thing
Yeah.
I do with quite a bit. That's why I asked you how many quotes you got. Normally people get quotes and it's like a huge variance on price.
Yeah,
Like,
huge.
this is 20,000 more than the last shop or 20,000 less than the other one. And I'm like, okay, well, show me the quote so we can kind of compare and make sure it's
Sure.
apples to apples. And most of them, the quote, like not all of them. There's some really good, amazing shops out there, but they'll have like all the stuff and then just one line item at the bottom. And it's kind of like you don't really know what you're getting. And then when I compare it, I'm like, oh, okay, well, they left out like all of the labor. That's why it's $20,000 less.
Yeah.
And so whether they're doing that to play a little bit of sleight of hand and then work it on the back end, or they really just don't know what fully the job is fully going to take. Everyone's trying really hard these days to limit their dealers so that the customers get a really consistent result.
Sure.
That's something I run into a lot with customers, and they're like, "Yeah, James, we see your marketing. We trust you, but like this other shop sent us one that's like $20,000 less." I'm just like,
Let's talk through it. Yeah, let's talk through it.
talk through it.
Yeah. But here's the thing though too, is like as a business owner for you is like everybody should make money. You're a for-profit business, but when you're getting to the point where you're making so much money where you're slapping hands in the back, that doesn't make me feel good. But I'm also a loyal person. Like I love sales. I love people in sales. So it's like if you treat me good and I feel good about it, I will come back to you. I'll send you 10 people. So don't try and make money off of me for one deal. I'm going to send you 10 other people where you can make something off of, right? And I just want to feel good about it and have that reputation. That's how I am in my business too. People keep coming back because I'm never going to gouge you, but we all work in a for-profit business. There's going to be some profit made, right? But we're not going to get rich off of one deal.
Yeah, and ultimately, a maintenance shop is kind of like your barber or your dentist.
Yes.
Most of my customers are become like really close friends. They invite me to their kids' birthday parties. Like they come to ceremonies that I have with the military, whatever. Like I know them for 5, 6 years.
Oh, cool.
And beyond. So it's really neat to build those relationships. But yeah, it's like this is not a one and done.
Agreed.
Especially avionics, because there's usually something, every now and again, and you want to have that good relationship with that customer. They're going to keep coming back.
Yes. And I want to keep coming back and I want to keep sending all my friends to you. Like, I want to say, like, the only person you go talk to is James, period. Like, that's it. There's no other avionics shop. That's how it should be, you know?
I will encourage you, if you're listening out there and you are, you're getting quotes, which I think you should. Getting quotes from other shops, there's a huge amount of variance, and you don't even have to come with me. If you want to send it to me, I'll go over it with you. Like even if you're in California, it doesn't make sense to fly your plane out to me. I'm happy to help. I really enjoy, just aviators in general. This is all I do is airplanes all day, every day. So cool, man. What about the learning curve of when you purchased an aircraft? Because like I said, most of my customers become close friends and it was their first airplane. And I have to like literally coach them through, this isn't like your car where it's just like you hit the key and no matter what, it never has an issue. What was that learning curve for you like?
I mean, luckily I've had so many good people around me, and like you were saying, this aviation community is small. It's the craziest thing. I mean, everybody I run into, like it's like they're your long lost friend, and you can sit and talk to for hours. Like that's the coolest thing. I've been to FBOs where, I've just been sat there and just talked and talked and talked. I was like, oh man, I got to get out of here. Like the weather's getting ready to change, but I have family in aviation. I have friends in aviation to where it's like, okay, what do you think about this? Or you find a good mechanic, and be like, hey, go through the logbooks with me, and the one big thing. So if you're buying your first plane, there's a certain price range where the plane's always going to be worth that. So you're buying your first trainer plane at $50,000. You're probably going to be able to sell for $50,000. Right. So you think about something like that. So, you're spending 150 to 250 bucks an hour renting a clapped out 172 that you got to get on a schedule for, or you buy yourself a plane for $50,000, fly it as much as you can, get all your ratings, and then you sell it again for $50,000. There's different strategies in doing it. That was my strategy, was just, I never wanted to get locked into one plane. I wanted to try high wing, low wing, and fly it as much as I wanted to. So I just kept buying planes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. That the which that's a really good strategy. Especially he's exactly right. If you're out there and you're thinking about joining a club, I will say probably take maybe 10 hours at a flying club or something. Make sure you really want to do it
Oh,
before you.
yeah. If you're already in the
Yeah.
mix of it, yeah.
Once you know, like, hey, I'm definitely getting my private, I would buy a plane, definitely. And then, yeah, you're like, like you said, you're a Cherokee 140, Cessna 172, 182, any of those planes in that range, you're going to be able to sell probably for exactly the amount. So the cost of getting your license is just the fuel and any, the annual inspections and any ongoing maintenance
Maintenance,
that
yeah.
you've got. So really good
Yeah.
stuff, man. The one that I always have is like, I don't know. So this is aviation is first off, the planes are old, right? They're 1960s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s technology. I mean, the Cirruses are newer, but the engine is still, 50s and 60s technology. And so low quantity manufacturing. Cirrus sells the most amount of planes in a year, and they're selling like around 1,000 per year. Ford, Honda, all these other companies, they're selling like, I don't know, what, thousands a minute probably. Something crazy, right? And so aviation is low quantity manufacturing and hand built. And so they're like, new alternator, it only lasts an hour. Well, what the heck, James? Why'd that happen? I was like, man, it's aviation and airplanes. It's like almost always something
Something's gonna break.
built, right? Like Frankie was making your alternator, and unfortunately, Frankie's wife was yelling at him that day, and that's the one that you got.
Yeah, Ted was making your alternator, and Ted had a bad day. That's awesome.
Yeah, so learning curve, but man, all really good stuff. So I want to shift gears just a little bit. I definitely did not have the talent near what you had. Got to play in high school, which was really fun. It taught me a lot of amazing lessons that I took with me throughout my entire life. It helped me through the military. Talk to me about the things that the lessons that you learned from football that you took into entrepreneurship and up being a pilot.
Yeah, I think what is it? They said there's two things that doesn't take talent, and that's attitude and effort, right? So those two things when I was younger is like there was nobody who's going to have a better attitude. There's nobody that was going to out effort me at anything. It didn't matter if it was tic tac toe, being first in line at lunch. Like I just was not willing to lose at all. I'm one of 8 kids, and I just knew I didn't want to be in the situation that I was living in. I wanted to do so much more. Every the way I guess out was sports for me. So every single day I was like I had snot coming out of my nose at practice. It did not. Some people like to, hey, we're practicing, let's go slow. I was like I was never gonna lose a sprint. I was never gonna lose a drill, and that's just how I treated everything. So when I got into life, no matter what it was, I was like I got to be first. I got to be first, or I got to do my best. So if I show up and I know I have a great attitude and I work hard, I'm going to be successful. It's just like, it's a tried and true recipe. So,
Yeah, I was always my coaches always told us effort effort beats talent when talent doesn't work, right? So
yeah,
that's
I'll take an effort guy all day long
yeah.
for sure.
For me, that was what I took with me into Air Force pilot training. Like, and I just really try to put my effort on every single flight. And for me, it ended in high school, and I had like this huge gap going into college. I had no clue how to fill that gap. You were able to play through the NFL, but that's probably even harder because that's your whole life for so much significantly longer. What was that feeling like when you
Yeah.
finally like blew them up?
What's crazy is I didn't have a plan B at all. It was just, even coming out of high school, I was like, I'm going to college. I'm going to play football. Like, I had no plan B. I remember Keith Gilbertson, who's a head coach at University of Washington, came to my high school. I was a quarterback at the time, and he told my high school coach, he goes, Chris is a great high school player, but he'll never play in the Pac-10. It was Pac-10 at the time. And my coach was like, hey, listen, man, I don't know if you've met this kid, but he's pretty determined. So I ended up getting a full ride scholarship to Washington State. And same thing, they're like, hey, he's a great college player. He'll never play in the NFL. Became an All-American, got into the NFL. So it was like you live your dreams. That was the pinnacle for me. That was always my goal. There was nothing else. There was no plan B. And I tore my ACL, I hurt my back, I tore my shoulder, tore my calf, and I was just like, okay, I can't run anymore. I can't. I have to have a plan B now. That was the only reason why they pushed me out. But yeah, it was I made it to that goal. That was my life goal. I hit it, and then it was just like now it's time for life.
Yeah, it's gut wrenching for me like that. I remember the last play of the last game, and it was just like it finally sunk in that this is over.
Yeah.
And then luckily I joined the military. Pretty that was my thing. I was just like immediately I joined straight out of high school. I was enlisted first, and then became an officer and a pilot later.
There you go.
But that mentality, I love it, dude. I can feel it in you. Like the you know, I remember doing bag drills, right? Like it was just like I'd give it everything I possibly had.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just went to a high school practice, our local high school in Seattle. I was I literally walked on the field and just like that stinky smell of just sweaty pads. I just like the turf, and I just got goosebumps. And they let me kind of move around with the guys and teach them some stuff. And I just like, just all the nostalgia came back, and I was like, oh my gosh, I miss this. So,
It is pretty cool. My high school, I'm actually back in my hometown. And boy, I've always thought about it's just, I'm just so busy at this point. I need to make time now, but, to go back and help the school out, on the
yeah.
team, I think that would be freaking awesome. But, you're kind of like around these kids, right? You're like, hey, man, like, we're here to win, okay?
Oh man. Oh man. But that's another thing too, is like these young kids, they have no idea that there is a way to get into aviation right now. So like I'll take kids up, for a flight, take them back, and I've had parents call me like, "Hey, I'm Krista, can you just take my kid up just for, flight around Seattle and take him for a flight?" And then it's like, hey, that's all he's talking about. He wants to be a pilot now. And it's just like to have that inspiration or just that effect on them, I think is awesome.
And I try to tell as many kids that honestly, I mean, if you don't know what you're doing, if you're a parent out there and your kids don't like really exactly have a plan they're looking for, I mean, the military is just such a great option. And, that in sports, right? Like being a part of at my high school, we went 10-0 every single year. And then we'd get blown up in the playoffs. We're just a very disciplined team. And when we'd hit a a team with a wide open offense, we'd get just obliterated. But we had that culture of winning, being we were part of something. We were better than all the other teams that were, in our two double or double A or whatever. Being able to join the military and be a part of a team, it's like this is the greatest force the world has ever seen. It's like you're a part of it. There's people like tonight that are, at that time, one of the times I was deployed as a mechanic, I listened to the speech by a general, and he at the time they had a lot of B-52s and they were going into Afghanistan. And he gave us a speech. He's like, "There, those planes when they fly by, it's cool, right? You love it. It's really cool. There's people right now that are praying that plane doesn't fly over their house tonight."
Oof.
And that's what we have. Like we are part of the greatest force that the world has ever seen. That's the team that you're on. You need to live that. And so if you're it's really neat, and it's good for I think it's great for people. And then you can become an Air Force pilot. There's paths. Probably same with football, probably, right? Like somebody's got to take you under their wing to kind of show you the right path to get to that next level. Same thing with the military, right? Like if you want to be an Air Force pilot, there's a path to get there. And I didn't just luck into it. My dad met somebody and he told them, "Hey, I want to be an Air Force pilot." And they put me under their wing and said, "Okay, this is the trodden path. This is what you got to do."
Yeah.
So it's an awesome experience.
Yeah, I think the
So
mentorship is so huge, and that's what so many. There's almost like a duty, right? We call it lifting as you climb. Like as you're going up, reach back and help somebody out, right? And I think that's the coolest thing in the world is to be able to just help somebody else out, and then and then you look at them thrive, and you're like, you had a little piece of that. It's just beautiful. So
yeah. So okay. So hung him up. Had no plan B. Where'd you go next?
man, I had just a crazy whirlwind. I went into, well, as I was finishing up playing, a good friend of mine, his dad owned a plumbing business, the biggest plumbing business in Seattle. And he was like, "And Chris, I want to teach you how to start your own plumbing company." So, I learned that trade. And then, had an opportunity to get into the car industry. Did that for about 7 years. And then, it was there when I found mortgage. And that was just what changed my life, was getting into the mortgage world. Is something I'm super passionate about, real estate, and love numbers. I love the financing aspect of things, and it just changed our lives.
Um, so what was your first business?
My first business that we started was my wife and I started a gym. We started in our garage. We built it. That grew, and then went from our garage to 3,000 square feet, grew that, and then we got to 10,000 square feet. So now our gym's 10,000 square feet. We got about 300 members. That one's thriving. And then in the middle, my son came to me actually. He was like, Dad, I want to get a job. And I was like, I was on this entrepreneur kick. I was like, you're not going to get a job. You're going to start your own business. And I was like, what is something that that we could really use? And I was like, man, I don't like washing my car. I was like, what if you started detail companies? The all in nature that I am, I was like, all right, if we're gonna do this, let's do it right. So I ordered uniforms, and I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm buying a van. I bought a van, and I decked it out with all this stuff. We have we're like $1,000 into this like side project with my son, and I'm like, screw it, let's do it, let's go all in. So I started like this hardcore marketing push, and we turned that thing into $100,000 gross business in the first year. And it was just me and my little high school kid, and so that was thriving. But that's a tough business, man. And I forgot that he's a high schooler, so I was like, oh, you should probably be a student too.
Well, it's the mentality, right? Like, let's go, let's do this.
Oh, we went for it, we threw it, it was awesome.
Wow. Yeah. So, it's really awesome. So same thing as becoming a pilot, and I really like, obviously entrepreneurship is definitely not for everyone.
Yeah,
It's so much harder than I think it, I could possibly even explain. I heard, it's funny. It was like Alex Hormozy, who's a big name right now, but he's like entrepreneurship is like eating glass, or no, maybe that was Elon. I think Elon said that one. I forget.
sounds like an Elon quote.
Imagine eating glass and you have no defined point of when the glass eating is going to stop, and you keep going. But it's it's because right now, I mean, I feel like the culture has, especially with young people, instant gratification, right? Like, can you go 6 months without results and keep going with the same energy that you went into when you were excited? Most of my customers they're middle aged, they own businesses, and they're like, James, like, your generation right now, you've got a huge opportunity. I won't say the word. He's like, because you got a bunch of what's out there.
I already know what you're gonna say. I was gonna say it too.
They're not willing to put it in. But how scared were you, or probably with your mentality? I was kind of the same way. I was like, whatever problem I experience is fine. I'm just gonna blow past it. I
Oh,
never slowed down when I first got going. But it was kind of funny when I finally like did away with any other income. I still was in the Air Force National Guard, but I mean, if unless I'm out there working,
yeah.
I'm not getting paid. So I mean, when my last paycheck came, I was like,
Or
this
when
is
you
real.
when they say pull the pin, go all in. Like once you pull that grenade pin, you're all in, right? And I'll
Uh-huh.
tell you right now, like the best entrepreneurs are the ones that fail and get back up, because you're gonna fail. You're gonna fail.
Yeah.
I've failed so many times, like flat on my face, failed. But the difference is I wasn't scared to try, right? They're all the people that are stuck behind, they're not trying, So you gotta go for it, man. Throttle down. Full send is what they say.
Yeah, full send it. The one
Uh-huh.
that really finally got me, I was actually working in between like training for the military. I got a job working for Cirrus Aircraft in Knoxville, and I had the opportunity to fly with some of our customers, and I was sitting in the cockpit flying with this guy, and he's got a $1.2 million brand new Cirrus. He just bought it, and the neat thing about the cockpit is at the time, now you got Starlink that you could put in the window, but like then you had none of that, like right there. So you're pretty much trapped in the plane with them. You've got 3 straight hours of, just conversation if you want to. And
Yeah.
so I built up the courage. I was sitting there. I was like, man, tell me your story. How'd you get to where you bought a, $1.2 million airplane? Talk to me about it. And he was like, sure. Why the heck not? We got 3 hours left to go on the flight. And he told me how he started as an engineer, where he came from like a normal family, not rich, middle class, middle to lower class, income, worked hard through high school, went to school to become an engineer, and then got his first job. And he was making like, I think he said he was making like $40,000 a year or something. He's like, man, bump this. I effing hate this. Like he worked in a cubicle, like he was just done. And he's like, I'm gonna do anything else. And so he like went online and was like Googling other things to do. And one of them said business owner. He's like, I'm just gonna try it and see what happens. And he bought into a sun tanning business at the time.
Oh,
His-
front paper.
he said when he he went from making like 40,000 a year. Him and his wife lived super frugally, and they saved every penny, and they purchased a business for I don't know, like 300,000 or 400,000 or something. And after I think he said after 5 years, he sold out, netted $2 million. They opened up several other locations, and then he sold out 5 years later, netted $2 million. And he was making, I think he said he went from making 40,000 to like 300,000 a year. And all of his friends before he walked out, they were like, "Oh man, you're an idiot! Don't walk out! Like, what are you gonna do? That's not gonna work." And so
now he's the smartest guy in the world.
he'd be sending them pictures of the bank statement.
Oh gosh, I freaking love that.
Yeah, so he sold out, and then he's like, "Man, I did nothing for like a full year. It was like every day was Saturday. It's not Friday because you work Friday, and it's not Sunday because Sunday's
You got to go back to work. Yeah.
every day Saturday." He's like, "But I got completely lonely and hated it because all my friends were working every day." So he came on, moved to East Tennessee, and started a whole bunch of other businesses. But I was like, "Dude, if this guy can do it, I think I can too.
Sure.
I'm gonna do it." So
man, those Sears guys are great. I had a great time with them. When I went to Oshkosh, I hang out with them, and then there's a flight academy up in Seattle. Just there's some good people.
Well, Cirrus, I think they have a good product, right? Do I think it's, and I tear these things apart and put them back together for a living. And I fly them too. I'm a CFI as well. So I think they've got a good product. Do I think it's, whatever that they're at least double the price of their next nearest competitor? Do I think it's that much better? No, definitely not. I think the G36 is a great plane. I think G58 Baron, I'd probably buy one of those over it. I think Diamond, I'm a Diamond Authorized Service Center. I think the DA50 RG is an awesome plane. But Cirrus does something way better than the rest of them, and it's sales and marketing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
their sales, marketing, and service is crazy.
They have a literal machine, and they almost went out of business in 2008, and they got bought out. And the people that bought them out, opened the checkbook, and they went out and bought Fortune 500, sales marketing talent to come in and teach them, apply that to selling airplanes. And they've created one of the largest. It's incredible how many planes they're able to sell, and the loyalty that they build in the brand is just crazy.
Yeah, they definitely created a brand, and like when you think of it, it's almost like its own class, right? Like it's a specific buyer for sure.
Yeah. So what would be one one piece of advice that you'd give someone if they're thinking about starting a business?
Great question. I'm a firm believer that the niche get rich, right? So if you have a niche that other people don't have, there's someone out there that created a bolt that it's all they sell is one bolt, but they're on a yacht somewhere, right? So if you have an idea, lean into it. But like you were saying, the marketing piece, people forget about that just because, well, here's another thing, just because you played a sport doesn't mean you be a good coach, right? So you have to have good people around you. And what I mean by that is, like, I played defensive end all the way up to the National Football League. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be a better coach than James, who all he's ever done was study football, right? He might be able to get through to somebody a little bit better. He might be a little bit better, more psychologically, or better technique guy or idea guy, right? So when you have a business, I think a lot of the most successful businesses have good people around them. And some people say you're only as good as your team as well, too, right? So I think surround yourself with good people. And you're the median of the 6 people you hang around. So if you're with people that are thinking small, you're probably going to think small too. So a friend of mine said, when you're the brokest one in the room, you're always learning. So you want to get into those bigger rooms and just keep growing from there, and ask questions like what you're asking right now.
That's good, man. That's a lot of good stuff. Well, talk to me about what's coming up next for you, and what do you got going on right now? Things that you'd like to, you could help somebody with right now.
That's a good question. I think for me right now is I manage a couple branches with Guild Mortgage. I have a big team, and I have about 10 employees. And my big thing is I help families buy homes, refinance, purchase homes, or invest in homes. And for me, if I can help anybody, if you're a first-time home buyer, if you're a move-up buyer, anything like that, it's what I'm passionate about. So that's my biggest thing. The second biggest thing is my wife is I got to give a shout out to my wife because she's my best friend, but she's training to be a professional bodybuilder. So she's going to compete in the amateur Olympia coming up this year. So support her. And then my son, he's finishing up pilot school, so he'll become a CFI here in the next few months. So I'm really excited about flying with him. And then my daughter is going into her junior year, and she's a little basketball player. So for me, man, I'm just excited being a dad and husband and flying planes, man.
That's awesome, man. It sounds like you'll help a lot of people too. If somebody needed to get in touch with you and was interested, if they're a first time buyer or they're looking for some real estate, like how would they get in touch with you?
Man, we're all over social media. Social media is really a good place for us, but just just reach out to my email. mkbruce@guildmortgage.net is huge. Or my cell phone's all over the internet, so you can call or text anytime.
Awesome. I'll make sure to put that in the link down when we post this. And then what about a website?
Website is teambrucemortgage.com, and then mkristo.bruce on Instagram. We get a lot of engagement there as well.
Man, that's awesome, dude. And I wish you the best, dude. And this is really, really neat. Exactly what he said. I mean, this is why I do love the aviation community so much. Is we're two people from different parts of the world,
Yeah.
and come together by aviation, we can have a really awesome conversation. I think a great example of the passion for that, the compassion that aviation people have is like what you saw with the hurricane on the East Coast. People with their private planes were tossing, boxes of water in the back of their plane and doing everything they possibly could to help people out that were stranded in Asheville. And that's really the aviation community that I know and I love, and I'm not surprised that happened because it's something that it's a force of good, and I'm kind of like an aviation proselytizer. I just want like more people to join into the fun.
Absolutely.
If you're thinking about becoming a pilot, I encourage you. If you're thinking about owning a plane, I encourage you. If it is a niche thing. I'm happy to, wherever you're at located across the country, you can go to my website, spearmanaircraft.com. I'm happy to talk to you. You don't have to do any services with me. I'll walk you through the pitfalls of buying an airplane or learning how to fly. So, MK, man, you're awesome. I want to be respectful of your time, though. I feel like we could keep going and going, but
For sure.
it was great. It was great talking to you. I really appreciate you being on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Are you going to Oshkosh this year?
Hell yeah.
All right.
I go,
Well,
I go every year, man.
I'm looking forward to seeing you there, brother.
Awesome. Let's touch base. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining the show. Tune in next time. We'll have lots more guests, and I'm grateful for all of y'all. Happy flying.